Prime Minister Modi loves to rewrite history, right? I mean, if Maharana Pratap could shellac Akbar in the Battle of Haldighati, then perhaps it's best to rework India's GDP series all the way back to 5561 BC, before Christ. You know, more than 7,500 years back, to prove that the growth we managed during the Mahabharata and under Hindu kings was higher, much higher than what was logged under the Mughals. I mean, just check out the new assumptions that the Modi regime has made to dampen the back data. There seems to be a much bigger design here than simply a, let's beat the UPA government objective. Bigger design. Look at the assumptions. Telecoms. Now, since high-speed internet was deployed in the Mahabharata, we are sure about that. But technology-challenged Akbar replaced that with pigeon mail. Hindu kings shall win hands down in that sector. Now look at transport vehicles. The Pandava chariots in Mahabharata were equipped with laser and nuclear weapons. We are convinced about that as well. On the other hand, the Mughals used to ride these clumsy, slow elephants. So this sector is in the bag too. Now the financial sector. The barter system was prevalent during the Mahabharata. Now, since there is no change in the money supply under that dispensation, I mean, in a barter system, there's no currency, there's no money at all, it's inflation-proof. As against this, the Mughals used currency. So, the inflation deflator for the Mahabharata age will be zero. So, no problem here as well. Hindu kings shall beat the Mughals here too. Finally, the informal sector. Now, Hindu artisans were replaced by Muslim artisans in the Mughal era. But since Muslims take 5 breaks every day for namaz, for doing their prayers, it should stand to reason, and you can easily make that assumption, that their productivity, the Muslims' productivity, was lower than the Hindu artisans of the Mahabharata period. So, gotcha, the Hindi kings win. Now, I have created this satire to ram home the seriousness of the issue. I'm not trying to trivialize it at all. As new technology, global commercial rules, social mobility and income growth, all of them alter national economies, the relative importance of different economic variables changes. For example, in an agrarian society where the per capita annual income could be under $100, people would eat coarse cereal and grain. But as countries and citizens become richer, say at annual income levels above $1,500 per capita, they begin to consume much more fruit, milk, and animal protein, that's meat. Necessarily then, you have to give a higher weight to these items to calculate food inflation. Now, similarly, in 2005, a new telecom subscriber had to buy a handset. They were not free at that time, so he probably paid 10,000 rupees to buy a handset, and then had to pay a relatively higher amount for voice and data. Bills could be about 2,000 rupees per month in 2005. So in 2005, at that time, under such a structure, an individual subscriber represented a far more significant measure of economic output than minutes of data consumption, which in any case in 2005 were negligible, because really there were no iPhones or YouTube videos or Facebook. But today, in 2018, in the multimedia and Reliance Jio digital era, handsets and voice calls have become free, while people are paying to consume gigabytes of data. Therefore, the unit of economic measurement should now switch to minutes or hours of data consumed. But equally, it would be wrong to superimpose a volume measure in 2005 to restate the value of India's telecoms GDP for that year. That's a clearly biased selection, which shall underestimate the telecoms output in 2005 compared to 2018. And note this one, since the Modi government has used this device of restatement and frankly a million similar tweaks to recalibrate the GDP under UPA downwards, what they've done is highly questionable. Frankly, I would even call it plain wrong. Now, this dire conclusion of mine is strengthened by several other real, objective, independent data points. Whether you look at corporate profits, you look at investments, you look at tax revenue, you look at credit expansion, you look at exports. All of them show that the Manmohan Singh government posted a much stronger economic performance than the Modi regime. Therefore, it's just disingenuous to try and turn all of that hard evidence on its head. Frankly, also, in any case, the GDP of any country is a very fuzzy and it's a very imprecise measure of the economic well-being of its citizens. So, precious little will be gained by trying to game that data. GDP is always fixated on more, not on better. For instance, if more patients were to die in hospital, the GDP actually improves. But if everybody is healthy and never visits the doctor, GDP falls. If a car burns excess fuel and actually pollutes the environment, GDP increases. But if its engine is efficient, GDP shrinks. Now, if the education system of a country is terrible and every student needs to take private tuitions, GDP increases. So you can see how perverse it really is. So Prime Minister Modi would be wasting his fairly fast depleting political capital in trying to sell this new economic data as his government's grand achievement. At best, he will get a few scattered talking points which really will not matter at all to agitating farmers and unemployed youth. And at worst, he would be wrecking yet another respected institution of India's political democracy.